If you thought haunted Irish cliffs were bad, wait until you hear about the time our beloved crew decided to explore Antarctica. That's right, the coldest, iciest, least hospitable place on Earth. And our jellybean astronauts thought it would be fun. The spaceship touched down on a vast sheet of snow and ice, winds howling like a broken siren. As the crew stepped out, the biting cold hit them like a slap to the face. Red shivered, his visor already frosting over. Guys, I'm having second thoughts about this whole adventure thing. Blue, ever the optimist, bounced excitedly. Come on, it'll be great. Think of all the snow we'll see. The wind chose that moment to pick up, nearly knocking them over. Purple, in a moment of pure slapstick, dramatically face-planted into the snow before even taking 10 steps. Yellow helped Purple up, muttering, "Great start." Really inspiring confidence here. As they trudged forward, squinting against the blinding white landscape, a strange shape appeared in the snow. Green pointed, his voice wavering. "Wait, is that a polar bear?" The shape got closer, waddling side to side. Black squinted, then groaned, "Oh no, it's worse. Penguins." Sure enough, a whole squadron of penguins surrounded them, staring like they'd found alien jellybeans on their turf. The birds tilted their heads, equally confused by the colorful intruders. "Quick, do something. They're multiplying." Red panicked as more penguins waddled over the horizon. Blue, in a moment of questionable brilliance, suggested, "Don't panic, just blend in." The crewmates began waddling like penguins, arms tucked to their sides, which, given their lack of arms, wasn't hard. It did not help. If anything, the penguins looked even more judgmental, desperate to escape their tuxedoed audience. The crew tried moving across the frozen landscape. The ice creaked ominously beneath their feet. Purple, still brushing snow off his suit, paused. I think this iceberg is hollow." Green waved off the concern. "No worries. It's probably fine." The universe, ever eager to prove Green wrong, chose that moment to intervene. The ground suddenly gave way, and they all slid down into a massive underground ice cavern, their screams echoing off the frozen walls. As they tumbled to a stop, the crew found themselves in a glittering wonderland of icicles and frozen tunnels. And there, half buried in the ice, was what looked suspiciously like a crashed research outpost. Yellow groaned, "Great, we found the Antarctic DLC map." Black, ever the pessimist, muttered, "Bet the imposter already lives down here." The others shot him annoyed looks, but nervously glanced around all the same. Inside the ruined outpost, the power was out. A console blinked faintly with frost, barely visible in the dim blue light filtering through the ice above. Red pointed dramatically. "This is it. The task. Restart the generator." Blue's enthusiasm finally wavered. "In Antarctica, with frozen fingers I don't even have." Nevertheless, the crew began fumbling, with switches and wires, of course. The more they messed up, the colder the cavern seemed to get. Purple, teeth chattering, complained, "Guys, if we don't fix this, we're going to be popsicles." Green, ever helpful, replied, "Good news. I already feel like a popsicle." After 3 failed attempts, involving crossed wires, accidental shocks, and one very unfortunate incident with Yellow's backside and an icicle, sparks finally flew. The sudden burst of electricity startled the penguins that had followed them down. The whole cavern echoed with indignant squawks. The noise triggered a mini avalanche inside the cavern. Ice chunks rained down as the crew scrambled for safety. "Move, move, move," Red shouted, pushing the others towards a narrow tunnel. Black, sliding on his belly like a pro, yelled, "I told you this was a bad idea." Yellow, bringing up the rear, added his own priorities. "If I die, bury me with snacks." The crew finally slid out of the cavern through the tunnel and landed face first in a snowbank. Behind them, the cavern collapsed completely, sealing the penguins inside, who looked very annoyed. but ultimately unharmed. The crewmates lay there for a moment, catching their breath and wondering how their lives had led to this particular moment. Back at the spaceship, the crew huddled together, shivering and covered in a fine layer of frost. Blue, his eternal optimism finally cracking, muttered, "Well, that was the coldest L of my life." Purple, somehow still finding humor in the situation, replied, "We survived frostbite, penguins, and falling ice. Pretty average Tuesday, honestly." Red, taking on the role of voice of reason for once, declared, "Reminder for the log. Never return to Antarctica. Ever." The others nodded vigorously, still too cold to speak. Green, however, couldn't resist adding, "Agreed. Unless we bring hot chocolate next time." The glares he received could have melted the entire continent. As they prepared for takeoff, Yellow couldn't help but reflect on their misadventure. You know, for a place with so much ice, we really weren't very cool down there. Groans echoed through the ship, but secretly, everyone was glad for the moment of levity. The engines fired, lifting the ship away from the icy wasteland. Antarctica was safe once again, not from nature, but from the crew's terrible survival instincts. As they ascended into the atmosphere, the continent shrank beneath them, a pristine white expanse marred only by the small crater where their cavern adventure had played out. Purple, staring out the window, mused, "You think those penguins will tell stories about us? The day colorful skybeams fell from above and caused chaos?" Black snorted, more like warnings. "Beware the clumsy invaders who can't even walk on ice." Red, still trying to warm up, added, "Let's hope they don't have any way to contact other animals. I don't want to be banned from every continent." The mental image of a penguin issuing a travel advisory against jellybean astronauts was almost too much to bear. As the ship settled into its flight path, the crew began to relax. The warmth of the cabin slowly seeped into their frozen bodies, and with it came a sense of accomplishment. Sure, they hadn't exactly conquered Antarctica, but they had survived it. That had to count for something, right? Blue, ever the cheerleader, tried to rally the troops. "Come on, guys. Think of the story we'll have to tell when we get back." Yellow raised an eyebrow, or would have, if he had any. "You mean the story of how we nearly became permanent ice sculptures?" "Yeah, can't wait to share that one." Green, who had been suspiciously quiet, suddenly perked up. "Hey, you know what would be really cool? If we went to the Sahara next. It's like the opposite of Antarctica, right?" The silence that followed was deafening. Then, as one, the entire crew turned to stare at him. "Absolutely not," Red said firmly. "No more extreme climates. No more cool ideas. Our next stop is going to be somewhere nice and boring. Maybe a small town with a quaint library." The others nodded enthusiastically, suddenly very interested in the idea of a quiet, danger-free excursion. As the ship cruised through the upper atmosphere, the crew settled in for the journey home. They may have been a bit worse for wear, but they were alive, together, and had a story that would be hard to top though knowing them. They'd probably try. And so, day 25 ended not with glory, but with frozen toes and bruised pride. But knowing this crew, their next stop will be just as ridiculous if not worse. As they drifted off to sleep, dreams of penguins, ice caves, and inexplicably working generators filled their heads. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new tasks, and hopefully, significantly warmer temperatures. For now, though, they were content to leave Antarctica behind, a frozen memory of a day when even the simplest task turned into a comedy of errors. As the ship disappeared into the night sky, a lone penguin waddled out onto the ice, looked up at the stars, and wondered if it had imagined the whole thing. With a shrug as much as a penguin can shrug, it turned and waddled back to its colony, ready to share the tale of the day the sky dropped jellybeans.